Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial for Tanpura Studio. This is an app that we use to practice improvisation with melody. You can use it to practice improvising with your voice or with an instrument. And yeah, it's a really good backing that you can use to just give you something to sort of work with in your improvisation. So I'll just go through the functions, but first of all, I'm going to press the play button down on the bottom left and you'll see what it sounds like initially. So it's just a repetitive pattern. It's just a repetitive pattern that keeps going, and it's modeled on an Indian classical music instrument called a tanpura, which is used in the same way in their music tradition. They use it as a base for practicing ragas, and a raga is a scale or a set of notes that is considered to have a certain emotional quality or expressive quality that is used for different purposes. So it's a really good tool. So we can thank Indian classical music for this tool that we can use in similar ways and sort of for our own purposes as well. So we are using this with the major scale. You can also use it with the minor scale or any other scale that you are learning. Just to focus in on improvising with melody and how to develop your ability to hear and to sense tension and release, and also sort of knowing where you are in the scale and practicing also rhythmic patterns with melody, and yeah, just really building up your melodic expression. So we'll just go through the functions. You can see a big letter C up the top of the screen, and this is the key note of the drone. So this means this is the bottom note and also the top note of the pattern that you hear. So if I press that again, press play again, it's the bottom note and the top note. Bottom, top, bottom, top. There is actually another note in the middle, which I'll explain a bit more later when we get to the function where you can change that. But that's just the key note of the drone. If you look at the arrows on either side of that letter, you can see, if I tap those, you can see that you can change the key note of the drone. So in our work together, we've started with the C major scale, and you can also, using exactly the same notes as the C major scale, you can also put the drone on A. And that will become the A minor scale. The only difference is that C is no longer 1. When you've got the drone on A, now A is 1, not C. So you have to think about the notes of that scale relating to A, not relating to C. That's the only difference. But if that's confusing to you, just stick with C and stick with the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can practice your melodic improvisation with that. Below that, we have a tuner. So if I press play again, you'll hear what the tuner does. Just before I do, we've got a sharp sign on the right and a flat sign on the left of this slider. So when I press play, you'll see what it does. You can hear it gradually going up. So it's very, very slight, which is actually great because I can't press it, yeah. Because what that means is that you can tune the drone to an instrument that's sort of slightly off the Western tuning, and this will be most helpful. This will be most helpful with instruments that are non-Western instruments, because sometimes their tuning is a little bit different to the tuning that we have with pianos and guitars and so forth. So that's helpful if you play, a ney flute from Iran, or or a shamisen from Japan. They might have just slightly different tunings, so that's helpful to just be able to make some very slight adjustments to get you properly in tune. Below that we have a BPM slider, and this is going to change the speed at which the drone notes move. So we'll play that and I'll show you. So I'm going to turn that up all the way. And hopefully you can hear that the notes are moving through quicker. So if you want to get a bit more rhythmic, you can put the drone quicker. If you want to chill out and relax, you can make it super slow. And that will really sort of create a more timeless feel. So it all depends on, you can play around with these and sort of feel what you want to work with on any given day. So I'll put that back. So next we have two more groups of options that we can change, which I'll tell you a little bit about. You don't need to worry too much about this, but suffice to say, on the left we have some various options for the type of sound. These names and the gender assignments are part of Indian classical music. For our purposes, we don't really need to sort of know what they are. I'm going to just suggest to you that you pick the sound that you like. So let's try Sangeet. It's a really different sound. It's much more, it has different frequencies in it. So that one compared to the Jayant. So you can just go through and pick a sound that you like. I prefer the Kalyan. I find it the most, what can you say? It's sort of the most soft, pleasant sounding one to me. So that's the one I'm choosing. Next to that, the rectangle, you have the syllables sa, da, and this refers to this Indian classical musical system, the syllables that they use. So in Western music, we use do, re, mi, like the Sound of Music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, we call that solfege, and that represents the major scale. In Indian classical music, they use the syllables sa, ri, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, and that represents the scale as well, and they have a whole system around that. All you really need to know, you can play around with these settings and try some different ones. They have really different sound. Basically what it's doing, sa is the root note, so that'll be C, and the da or the ni or the ma or the pa are different notes of the scale that they're emphasizing so that you can hear that note. I'm going to suggest to you guys just to use sa, pa, because that's using the first note and the fifth note of the scale. And that's going to be applicable, it's going to work with the major scale and the minor scale. And really most scales that you're going to want to use, it's going to work with those. So stick to that, and if you want to experiment, go right ahead. But just know that that's going to be the one that's going to work with the main scales that you will be playing with. Then we have a Tanpura, so we have two more sliders which say Tanpura and Surpeti. So if I turn them both down, you'll notice that there's no sound. When I turn up Surpeti, you'll notice that it's like a very straight tone. It's a very, very straight tone. It's actually not the sound of the Tanpura. And then when I turn up Tanpura, you'll hear that familiar drone come in. So you can just mix how much of each sound you want to hear. The Surpeti just gives you a little bit more stability in being able to hear the exact tone of the Tanpura, because sometimes the Tanpura has a sound quality that's a little bit rough, or maybe not always so easy to hear. So you can just sort of create a mix that you like that supports you the best in your practice. So you might want the soppetti down really low. It's totally up to you. It's totally up to you. So that's just the main functions of the drone app Tanpura Studio. It's the same control. This is the iOS version that I'm showing you here. It's pretty much exactly the same in the Android version. Sometimes the options are slightly different. Some of these options here can be a little bit different, but you should still have the basic functionality that you need to work with them for melodic improvisation. So I hope that helps. Please reach out if you have any questions, and I will see you in another video. Bye.